What it do, Double D crew? That's the first time I said that. Saying that out loud, Double D crew, that's like double D's and I'm a whole A cup. But anyways, I was saying Double D because my name is DD and that's D 2 times, so Double D. Anyways, I ain't been on YouTube in a good little minute, but thank y'all for 104 subscribers. I'm gonna get back to it. It's been like months, but I'm gonna get back on my grind. I'm gonna be consistent. I'm gonna try to post a lot in October, Spooktober. Today, we is reacting to 5 True Horror Stories animated by MJV Animations. So let's get straight into it. I'll probably link the original video in the description below.
I take the same route every single day, in and out of the city. I don't live very far, just 30 or so minutes, out in the quiet suburbs. The road I took was always quiet at night, which was a huge relief compared to the traffic there was during the day. I was driving on this road, and everything was going just as it always did. It was a little past 10 p.m. I was listening to my music and happy to be almost home. When I was 10 minutes away and entering the woodsy area just before the start of the suburbs, a light beamed from up the road. Nothing was off at first, but as it got closer, it seemed to be really bright, like almost blinding me. I literally had to stare at the shoulder of the road to make sure I stayed in my lane. But just as I thought they were going to pass me, I suddenly could see a glimpse of their tires right in my lane.
I'm recording this at midnight.
They
it's
were
12
driving
a.m.
on the wrong side of the road, about to head-on collision with me. My reflexes took over, and I swerved to the right.
Most people swerve in this situation, but I feel like if a car is coming towards you, you should like reverse and start driving backwards real fast, and then get out the way.
It took me a few seconds to gather myself,
but obviously in the situation, you ain't thinking, so you just
swerve. I unbuckled my seatbelt and jumped out of the car. It was totaled for sure. The whole front was pretty much ripped off, and it honestly looked like I should have died in there. Then I remembered what happened and immediately got pissed off. I climbed out of the ditch and looked down the road. I expected to see their headlights fading out in the distance, but I was surprised. They had stopped and pulled over not too far down. Before approaching them, I quickly looked at my surroundings and realized how secluded we were. So before confronting them, I ran back down to my car and got my phone, calling the police. I didn't know who was in that car up there, or if they were drunk and angry.
Why the police look so weird?
So I figured I'd play it safe. The operator said they would be here in 5 minutes, so I hung up and started to walk back up the ditch, but was startled by a guy now standing at the top.
That's already hella weird.
He didn't ask if I was okay, or say anything at all.
Get back in the car.
Are you the one that made me crash? You could have killed me, I said, trying to hold back my anger until the cops arrived. He still didn't speak.
Okay, he probably like freaking
suddenly started getting brighter
foreign,
and coming toward where he was standing.
He probably Russian or something.
I was still in the ditch, but could see
how
that
much
it
you
was
want to
the
bet, bro?
same
It's
car,
Russian. Look at him,
and
bro.
someone else was driving it.
He's Russian.
They backed up right to the edge of the ditch. Then the driver door swung open, and another guy got out. The two men started talking in a different language. I think it was Russian or German. I'm not good with languages, but it had that aggressive sound to it. As they talked, the one guy rushed around to the back of the car and threw open the trunk. But instead of grabbing anything, he turned to face me.
Hell no.
Both of them immediately came running at me
like
down into the ditch.
Like angry.
It didn't take me more than a split second to put the pieces together. I turned around and sprinted into the woods as the men ran around my car and continued chasing me. They were both large and heavier looking men, so after a good minute of sprinting, I'd lost them.
This be scary as hell.
Now
is this true stories?
With absolutely no light to see where I was going. I didn't even know which direction was which. With no sounds of the men nearby, I aimlessly wandered through the trees.
Now he's in the
I wasn't
trees.
trying to get
What
back
if a
to the
bear eat
road
him or some
while the
shit?
men were still around, but I also didn't want to get completely lost so that the police wouldn't be able to help me. After only a couple minutes of walking, though, I could hear the sirens in the distance to my left. I followed the sound, leading me straight to the road, where I could see the cop car at the top of the ditch and 2 officers inspecting my car. There were no signs of the men anywhere. I explained what happened, and
Why
they
do
wrote
cops
down a
look like
report,
that?
but the follow-up
like
investigation
gray.
was
They
minimal,
look like zombies.
since only their description was to go off of. Nothing was stolen from my car, though. It's pretty blatant that they were trying to throw me in their trunk, but whether that was planned before or after the crash is unclear. Maybe they made a mistake and were trying to cover it up, or it could have all been just as they intended.
Hi, I'm
Alright, so for the first story, honestly, bro, 4 out of 10. It wasn't scary at all. Like, obviously, if you're really in that situation, it's scary. But as a person watching the video, and like, it wasn't that scary. Basically, he escaped getting kidnapped, which is scary, like I said. And he was running the woods and da 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 and whoop de whoop. But it wasn't that scary. 4 out of 10. Next story.
writing this today because I love your channel and I thought it might be a great opportunity to share my story.
Why
I have short
the
hair,
voice so deep?
snake bite piercings, a septum piercing, a nose piercing, and
Piercings
I
are
wear
hot.
oversized men's clothes, as that's what I'm most comfortable in. I have no
Girls with
problem with
piercings?
people viewing me as masculine. So, it was my first day in 11th grade. I was having lunch with my best friend Sally when she gestured to a boy sitting
Ew,
next to
why they
us.
eating grass and
His name was
bushes?
Henry, and everyone knew him to be the big bully since middle school. Surprisingly, I noticed Henry
Now, why does he
staring
look
at
like
me
that?
with a creepy smile. I never
Bro
talked
looks
to him
like
before, so
the zombie
I felt
Joker.
weird when he smiled at me.
Bro, we gotta add, bro. We gotta add, bro.
All kids and teens.
I don't know if I'm gonna cut ads out because that's too much work. I think I'll just show y'all me skipping
The
them
rest of the
instead.
day, wherever I went, Henry's eyes followed me.
Bro, that's scary
When
as
the last
hell.
class bell rang and it was time to go home, I got a call from my dad saying that he was going to visit my uncle at the hospital battling cancer. Meaning, I was going to be at home alone, as my mom was at work and my older sister was sleeping over in her boyfriend's house. I got off the bus and began walking home. I live in a small town, so the side roads are almost always
She's kind of
empty.
bad, I ain't gonna lie.
But as I was walking past an alleyway,
Smash.
someone grabbed my arm and pulled me over. It was Henry.
Yo, this
Before I
is
could
making me feel
process what was
uncomfortable.
happening, Henry kissed me. I pushed him away and he screamed. What? You were smiling at me, remember? I thought we shared a moment. I was shocked, realizing how delusional this guy was. I yelled back at
It's
him.
already scary enough.
No, you're the one who smiled. And FYI, I'm into girls.
I know that's right.
Anger in his eyes as he just said fine in annoyance and stormed off.
The
I
bro
took a
side
second to
profile is
process what just
ugly as
happened
hell.
before I
Nasty.
continued walking home. I didn't share this with my
Why her
parents
bed
and
so
went to
small?
bed after watching Walking Dead
Goddamn.
reruns. I usually sleep with one window open for cross ventilation. Around 3 a.m., I heard a quiet noise. Now, I have a guinea pig, so I'm used to noises,
I want a
but
guinea pig.
this one sounded different. I immediately became alarmed and slowly looking around the room. Someone was crawling through the window and entering my bedroom.
Oh, hell no,
Seeing an
bro.
intruder, the normal reaction
I might have a
was
heart
screaming,
attack if someone climbed through
but I
my
was
damn
too
window.
shaken by this.
I live on the second story
I
of my
laid in the
house,
bed,
so
frozen like a
I was like, how the
mummy,
hell you even,
when the
bro?
man
I
stopped
died.
and
I
turned
ain't
to
even gonna
me.
lie.
He stood still and watched for a few seconds, but all of a sudden picked up speed and ran right at me.
That's
Before I
Henry.
could scream, he placed his hand on my mouth.
Small ass
Then,
man.
when I realized that it
What
was
is his angle, bro?
It was Henry. Luckily, my dad was still awake downstairs, and he saw someone jumping our fence from our living room. He slammed through the door of my room so hard that Henry's face turned pale. He tried to jump out through the window and escape, but my dad grabbed his t-shirt and pulled him back in.
W dad, 'cause what the hell?
The police arrested Henry and took him away in handcuffs. I hugged my mom while struggling to hold back my tears. I was so scared, and I didn't know that he wanted.
Bro, that angle
even
is
knew how he
crazy.
knew my address, but I figured that he must have followed me home. The next morning, I woke up and called my best friend to tell them about this incident, but she didn't pick up. I wasn't too concerned about it, as she often slept in, so I decided to just get ready for school and wait for her there. The day passed, and
She never came, huh?
She never came. So I tried calling her, but she didn't answer again. I figured that she was still sick and decided to go to her house to see if everything was okay. When I made it to her house, I knocked, but no one answered. Her parents were out on a business trip, and she was supposed to be
Did
home
Henry
alone.
like eat her or something?
I called her
He
again.
gives Dahmer vibes.
I could hear her phone ringing inside the house.
Oh,
I tried the door and noticed that the door was unlocked, so I went inside. I called out to her so she would know that I was there, but there was no response. I walked up the stairs and into her room, and I was mortified by what I saw. There she was,
Dead?
lying unconscious on her bed, and someone scribbled this on her wall. Once she's gone, you'll be all mine.
Did Henry think that's her girlfriend?
I
or
called
something?
my parents,
Since he
and they
said
called for a paramedic.
she like girls.
Sally was rushed to the hospital. The doctors said that she fainted.
Why the doctors
from
like
shock.
that?
I immediately thought that it had to be Henry who did this, but then I remembered that he was under police custody right now. 2 days later, when Sally was a little bit better, she told the cops that a guy named Zach from school had
Who is
snuck into
Zach?
her house with a knife and threatened to kill her.
Where did he come from?
His demeanor was that of like a psycho, which terrorized Sally as she fainted. I didn't know what he wanted, but Zach kept saying one thing repeatedly. I have to do this for my best friend. I promised Henry. Zach was eventually arrested and put behind bars
Bro, what
for
the
being
hell,
an
bro?
accomplice of Henry.
Side note,
It
he
was
a good
found
best
later
friend
that
type
Henry
shit.
brainwashed Zach and told him to be on board.
He
with
said,
his
okay,
plan.
bro, I got you.
Henry wanted
Get you a
me to
best
be
friend
his
like that.
girlfriend, but when I rejected him, he didn't handle the rejection well. It's scary to think that Zach was so obsessed about.
I want to know what
his
Henry
friendship
and Zach
with
look like in
Henry
real
that
life,
he didn't
because
even
they
think
don't
of
look like this. They look
consequences
absolutely
before breaking
crazy.
into Sally's house. Sally and I filed for restraining orders against Henry and Zach because sadly, they haven't done enough to stay behind bars forever. But judging their mental condition and evil intentions, I wouldn't be shocked if these two turned out to be terrifying criminals in the future.
Alright,
My name is John.
real quick. That story gets like a 6.5 out of 10. It was definitely scary. It didn't make me like jump or nothing. Or, you know. But it was scary, you know, somebody break into your house middle of the night type shit. Yeah. The whole situation. Put yourself in real life. I give it a 6.5, 7 out of 10 on scariness.
23.
Story number 3, let's go.
I work at a 24/7 bar in my town that's known for our pizza and drinks. We don't really have any other food options,
Why did it look like that?
but people seem to enjoy it anyway.
Ugh.
I never understood why the owners decided they wanted us to deliver pizzas. It's a lot of hassle for probably not that much extra money. But since we didn't really get that many delivery orders, I was always the only driver during the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. On this night, I walked into the place being pretty crowded. There were several large groups, and with deliveries being slow, I was helping out with waiting tables in the
Why
meantime.
he built like that? His head
There
small,
were
his
a
body
few
big.
deliveries I made, maybe once an hour, and at 3 a.m., there was another regular delivery for me to drop off. I grabbed the single pizza and got in my car. The address was 15 minutes away, so I typed it into Google Maps and started driving. Everything up until this point was completely normal. This was just like any other delivery, and honestly, I was happy to get out of the crowded bar and onto the quiet roads. While driving, though, I got caught off guard when my Google Maps suddenly said I'd arrived.
See,
I wasn't even in a neighborhood.
these
I pulled over on the
GPS,
curb
bro.
and tried to figure out where I'd gone wrong. But
They be always
double-checking
bring you in the
everything,
wrong place,
this
bro.
was the address
Why is
that was
he
on
on
the
empty?
order. It was for the entrance
Let
to
me
a
go take,
forest
nigga.
preserve or park or something. There weren't even any houses nearby that it could have been mixed up with, so I called the customer's number. It rang for less than a second before they picked up. Hey, this is John. I'm just trying to deliver your pizza, but I think you've given us the wrong address. There was a strangely long pause as I could hear the guy breathing into the phone before he described my car and said to look to my left.
Nope.
I did as he said and literally
That's when you
saw
leave and just forget
nothing
about
but a
delivering a damn
completely
pizza, bro.
pitch black forest. Then I saw something
Don't
move.
get out of the car.
It was him, waving his arms in the air to get my attention. He was standing in the forest behind
I
the
don't
road.
even see nothing.
I don't know why he didn't just
At that
come
point,
up
that's
to
where
the
you
side
just
of
throw
the
the
road
pizza out the
where it
window
was
and don't get
easier
out.
to see, or even why
Forget
he
the
ordered
money.
it here to begin with. I got out and started walking over.
Why would
It
you
was
get out,
hard
bro?
not to notice how eerily quiet it was outside, next to this forest preserve. There were no cars anywhere, and no other people. I found it really odd, too.
But you
As
got
I
out the car and
walked
kept
up,
walking.
The guy
Bro,
didn't move.
that's
Like, he didn't meet me
activities.
halfway. He just stood there and watched me walk across the street and up to the grass just before the edge of the forest, where he was at. I stopped halfway through the grass, realizing this was getting really weird.
Oh, now it's
I
getting
waved him
weird.
over to come grab the pizza and pay for it. The guy hesitated, and instead of walking up to me, he looked behind me and on either side, pretty obviously looking for any bystanders. My nerves were really high at this point, which made it hard to think straight. If my mind was clear, I definitely would have just taken off from my car and left. Before I could come to my senses, the guy started approaching me. He was walking really fast.
He look like he on
and
crack.
didn't
Why
slow
his,
down
like, eyes
when he got
like that?
closer. I stumbled back, but it was too late. The guy grabbed my upper arm
See,
and started pulling me back
That's
toward
when you
the
punch him in the
forest.
face and run.
He was clearly trying to be quiet, though, not yelling or anything, but instead
maybe he
putting
needs
all
help.
of his efforts into forcing me back. We struggled back and forth for several seconds before I realized I couldn't break free and started punching instead.
There you go.
It
About
only took a
time.
few clean shots to his face before he let go, and by then, we were only a few feet from the forest. I took off running,
I'm just confused.
looking back only to check if he was following. I saw him get up and run into the forest, but to my horror, two other guys came out from behind the trees.
No, why that actually
I
scared
got in
me?
my car
I got
and
scared when
drove
I seen
straight
that
to the
Loki.
police station that was on the other side of the block. But obviously, the guys had completely run off by then. I actually went back to work after that, explaining
Why?
what happened to my boss and asking if he had any info on the guy's order. All he had was a phone number, which was already disconnected, and the first name that was most likely fake. After that, he sent me home early with
Bro,
a
give
free
me a
slice
raise
of
after
pizza,
that, bro.
which wasn't exactly a fair trade, but I wasn't complaining. If I'd been dumb enough to walk up to the forest that night, I probably would have been instantly jumped by all three men with no witnesses. Luckily, my hesitance to approach him made it an easier fight to escape,
But you shouldn't
but
have
it
got out the
very
damn
quickly
car.
could have turned into something far worse.
Bro. This pissed me off.
I'm a terrible long-distance driver.
Alright, that story gets like also a 6.5. Cause I got scared by those dudes behind the tree for a split second. But also it was stupid because all that could have been avoided. As soon as bro went to the damn forest, bro should have turned around. Or if we seen the guy waving, bro should have just threw the piece out the window, not even got the money. Because there was no point. Why would you deliver to a forest? That's stupid. That's dumb. You should have stayed in the car. Don't piss me off. Alright, story number 4.
I just wanted to put that out there to begin with, because my inexperience really shows. I almost never drive
Why you
more
look
than
like that?
30 minutes at a time.
Look like Fred from
But for
Scooby-Doo.
work, I had to make a 10-hour drive from my small hometown of Brawley all the way up to San Francisco, where our main office was. I'd been with the company for less than 6 months, working remotely, so this was my first time making this drive. Unfortunately, the way there wasn't through the beautiful California coastal highway either. It takes the lesser-used highway on the opposite edge of the state, going through the empty deserts and smaller cities for the most part. Again, I'd never taken this route before, so this was all new to me. I set up my GPS and started driving at 6 p.m. This would be so that I could hopefully make it right at check-in time at the hotel, which was 3 p.m. the next day. The first hour of the drive was through my town, and it slowly dwindled down to just a few buildings here and there, and eventually nothing. There also weren't really any other cars. About 3 hours in, I passed a gas station, and it reminded me to check on my tank. I looked at the meter and noticed it was getting close to running out. Actually, it was really close to running out. Driving for this long on a boring, empty road
A
made
gas
me space
station
out
at
and not pay
night is
attention to
scary
it.
as hell, bro. Especially when
I
you're
figured I was good
alone.
enough to wait until the
And
next
if you're a
gas
woman,
station, though.
bro, that shit is
So
scary.
for the next 20 minutes, I had my
I
eyes
can't
open
even
for
lie.
any gas station exits. But as every mile passed with no gas station, I started to worry. That feeling of dread came over me for being so stupid to have let myself get this low on gas in
Yeah.
the middle of a desert.
Dummy. It
I could
happens.
feel my car start to jerk randomly and stutter, so I knew this was really bad.
What you
Just
do?
as I was thinking that my car was going to shut off at any second, I saw someone's headlights on the side of the road. It looked like a police car monitoring the highway, so with pretty much no choice, I pulled off onto the shoulder and parked a little ways behind them. I was hoping they had a gas canister I could use. I got out and started walking up to their car. It had a spotlight by the driver's side mirror and a light bar on the roof. So from behind, it looked exactly like a police car. But as I got closer, I wasn't so sure. Either way, I needed help, and by now I assumed they had to have seen me walking up anyway. When I got up to the side of the car, it was clearly a police car, but not one in service. Like probably an old one that someone had bought after the police markings and other stuff were removed. When I got up to the window though, nobody was inside, but it didn't look abandoned either. The inside looked relatively clean.
This is already
There was
hella
even a grocery
suspicious.
bag
Even though the
on
inside is
passenger
clean,
seat
bro.
with what looked like
That's
food and
suspicious, bro.
snacks in it.
Leave, bro. Well, he
Something
can't. He ain't
about
got no
this
damn
was
gas.
really off though.
He should still
I
get back in the
looked up
car.
and out at the surrounding desert. It was really dark, mostly empty aside from some stray cactus, but it only took me a second to notice something moving out there. They were pretty far from the road.
My bad,
so
bro.
I
I'm
couldn't tell
tired. I
what they
told
were
you it's
doing,
midnight.
But there was definitely a
school in the
person
morning.
out there moving around. Knowing this wasn't going to go the way I expected, I was going to go back to my car and try to call 911 or maybe roadside assistance, but the figure suddenly stopped moving and stood still. It was like they had noticed me and were suddenly looking over.
Why did that scare me a
I
little
didn't
bit?
know what to do,
Nah,
so I
bro.
kinda just
Get back in
stood
the
there.
car, bro.
Then the person
He looked like he just
started
ate somebody
rushing
out in the
toward
freaking
road.
desert, bro. Looks
I
like he
took this
wrestles
opportunity
hyenas
to
or
run back to
something.
my car. The man must have been full on sprinting though,
Oh, hell
because
no.
by the time I was in my driver's seat, they were already at the road. They stood by their car and stared at me, and I could now see their face.
This
in my
makes me feel
headlights.
uncomfortable.
They had short black hair and a black beard. with dirt and sand covering their entire body from their shoes.
Because they was wrestling hyenas. I told you.
I couldn't tell if he looked mad or what, but he stood like a deer in headlights, as if waiting for me to either drive away or get out. I was too scared to try starting my car, because if it stuttered and he heard that, then he'd know I was stuck. So I sat there and just tried over and over to call 911. By the time I finally got through, the man had gotten in his car, and a minute later, he drove away, leaving his headlights off and disappearing down the road. As for afterward, an officer made it 30 minutes later and poured a few gallons of gas in my car. I told them about the man who was acting really suspicious and was out in the desert, but he mostly brushed it off and didn't even check on me.
Of course he did.
He even joked that he was burying a body out there and acted
He probably
like it was nothing.
That's why it's
I was so
freaking covered in
shaken up,
sand.
though, that I didn't put up much of a fight.
Burying the body that he
just
tried to
continued my
eat.
drive.
After he wrestled a hyena.
It's been a while since this all took place, but I can't stop thinking about what that man was doing out there, or possibly how close I was to discovering something.
Alright, that one also gets like a 6 out of 10 because it wasn't scary, and then to the end it got a little
I'm a
scary.
29-year-old female.
It got a little scary when bro was sprinting at him and he ain't got no damn gas. I was a little
My
scared.
brother
6 out of 10.
went to
Next
hang out
story.
in the mall with his friends on the weekend. I was the only girl in a boys' group, so I mostly stayed on my phone. I am very introverted as well. I was getting bored and feeling somewhat ignored, so I told my brother if he could drop me home. He told me he'll leave after some time. Since we lived far away from the mall, I had to wait for my brother. But at the same time,
They at the mall?
I was so angry with
thought
him
that was a
that
library.
I cut off from the group and started roaming around on my own. I was checking some stores while casually walking through when I made eye contact with a man. He seemed to be in his late 40s. He quickly walked up to me and asked, "Are you alone here?"
Oh hell
As
no.
much as I've had creepy guys hitting on me,
Bro.
his eerie tone.
I get
just
like seeing
added
him
to the
actually gave me
experience.
chills. His yellow teeth with those eyes, bro.
No,
He looked like
I'm
Momo.
with my friends.
Y'all know Momo.
And started to walk away. He started walking with me. But seems like your friends bailed on you, pretty
He's
girl.
scary, bro. That's when you grab his nuts
Yeah, that's
twist
on
him?
my own. Well,
and he falls to the
people can
ground.
be jerks.
You knee him in the
but
face
that
and you run,
shouldn't
bro.
limit us from having fun. He smiled big while saying this. Now, before you judge me, please keep in mind that I was only 14 and really mad at my brother for ruining my weekend.
So,
I asked him if he knew anything fun to do around the mall,
bro.
and he said
14,
there's a newly opened
12,
gaming zone.
10. You should be smart enough not to go with no weird looking man like that, bro.
Where I could see my brother laughing and having a good time with his friends. I whispered, "A-hole," and then agreed to go to the gaming zone.
And I don't care if she's 14. Her brother
It
should
was
be
my
watching her.
first time in
Shit.
that mall, so when he said we'd need to go to the basement, as that's where the gaming zone is, I believed him. I really wish I hadn't. We got into the
Why would they
elevator
go to the
with a
basement? Why would
bunch
she
of
believe
people.
that, bro?
I'm sure they thought the man to be my guardian. So
14 is old enough to know.
A 14-year-old was following a stranger to the mall basement. One by one, everyone got off, and on the ground floor,
This nigga
the
looks
elevator was empty.
crazy.
The man pressed the button to the basement, and we came down to the parking lot. The moment I got off the elevator,
Was that his
my
finger? Why
heart
did it look like that?
skipped a beat. Are you sure there's a gaming
Bro.
zone here? I asked him. He
No,
smiled
dummy.
even bigger and said that the place was under construction, but he had the key to the virtual car racing
Of
machine.
course he do.
I nodded,
Use your brain,
not
bro.
knowing how deep I was drowning in his lies. He started walking into the dimly lit basement, and I began following him, not knowing what I should do. I thought to text my brother, but there was no network in the basement as well. Now the man started saying how I would enjoy the racing game since there'd be no one to disturb me. Soon, his words started to sound alarming, with creepy double meanings hidden in them. As he said, the car racing machine is so big and I'll enjoy it riding for hours. Yeah, exactly that's what he said. We were almost halfway into the basement, and I was constantly
Bro, that's
looking
side
back
profile,
to
bro.
notice how far the elevator
That is
was
scary.
getting from me. A bubbling feeling that something was very wrong suddenly kicked into my stomach.
Ooh, I hate that feeling. Y'all know that feeling. Your stomach
My
drop,
brother just texted me.
and then you gotta poo.
Looks like I'll have to come some other time. See you later, mister. I quickly turned around and started walking
Is she
back
gonna get
to the
grabbed?
elevator. I was walking fast, but also couldn't
No, she
run
needs to sprint.
because I didn't want to give him the idea
She needs to
that I
sprint.
panicked.
It don't matter, bro. Sprint.
Suddenly, I heard footsteps rushing towards me.
Exactly. That's why
And
you should be
looking
sprinting.
back, I saw him running at me full
Exactly.
speed.
Oh, hell
His
no.
face
Look
was
at
filled
him,
with
bro.
rage
Let me
and
back up
anger
on my
as
screen.
he yelled at me to stop. That's when I made a run for the elevator. I almost bumped into the closed elevator door and started pressing the button like crazy. Please come down before he gets me. I remember praying this to God. The man was inches away when the elevator door opened, and my brother, with his 3 friends, stood inside. What the hell are you doing here? Jimmy said he saw you with some man in the elevator. What's going on? My
How
brother
you
seemed
mad at
really
her?
worried,
It's
and I
your
glanced
fault,
back
nigga.
to point at that creepy dude. But he was nowhere to be found. I'm sure
Saved
he took
by the
off
bell,
realizing
bro.
my brother had come to get me. I told my brother about this man, and he took me to the mall security to inform them about this shady old guy. I just hope he's not lurking there, looking for some underage kid to take them to the basement to try his made-up gaming machine.
Honestly, y'all, that specific story wasn't that scary. The dude was scary. So because the dude was scary, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. The actual story, obviously, what happens to you in real life is scary as hell. But I don't know, like, just listening to the story wasn't that scary. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. But that's it for this video, y'all. I will post again tomorrow another scary video. I told y'all all October I'm doing scary videos. So anything like short films, not movies, because movies, but any short films, any animated horror stories, anything scary y'all want me to react to all October, just leave it in the comments and I will react to it. Like, comment, subscribe, please, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.